Our next question comes from a guy named Matthew Lloyd, who writes, is the media done? They lost so badly and still don't get it. They keep doing the same crazy things that made people despise them so much, complaining about Trump ditching them to grab a steak. Is there any chance that they will recover or maintain some of their power? No, I don't think so, Matt. I think they're done. And one of the point number 3 on my plan, which has been delayed, I was going to release the plan the day after the election because I thought we were going to lose it. So that'll be coming out next week. But the 5-point plan I have for the future of this country, point number 3 is we have to outflank the mainstream media. And when I say outflank them, it doesn't mean we have to change them, because they can't be changed. They're the publicity department for the progressive movement. But the good news, as I was saying, is that we don't have to beat them, because they are dying in front of our eyes. And while the demographics of young people favors Democrats and progressives, and this is where we have to apply all of our efforts in the next 4 years, we got to grow a crop of conservatives to vote in 2020, and we have very limited time, but it can be done. While it's true that there are more and more people becoming, more and more progressives or socialists or Democrats or whatever, it's also true that nobody under the age of 30 ever looks at TV. Nobody watches CNN anymore. Nobody watches ABC. People get their news nowadays. Young people get it off of Facebook and other things. By the way, somebody just said Donald Trump is the youngest, oldest guy we've ever elected, and that is absolutely true. Among the many, many things that would so impress me in the final weeks of this campaign is that, was it the last Sunday before the election, Trump did 6 events. I mean, he was in 6 different states, started at 6 in the morning, finished at 11 at night. 6 events in 6 different states. That's astonishing. That's astonishing vitality. Hillary Clinton had the nerve to stand up there and say, I can prove. Some people have wondered about my health and stamina, but I had the stamina to debate Donald Trump 3 times for 90 minutes, and I've got the stamina to be president. It's like, is that serious? Did you just really seriously say that? The question is about the media. They're dying demographically. They were dying demographically before the election, and if there had never been an election, or if Hillary had won the election, then they'd still be dying anyway, Matthew. But nobody has any doubts about this liberal bias that we've been talking about, because when you see objective news anchors fighting back tears as they realize that Donald Trump is going to win, they don't strike me as objective personnel. Martha Raddatz looked like she was choking back sobs, and let's just remember that this is the unbiased person who was going to moderate a debate objectively. Jeremy says, why are they dying, Bill? They get paid every time somebody pays their cable bill. That's true, but fewer and fewer and fewer people are paying a cable bill, Jeremy. I don't watch cable. I haven't watched cable in years. I watch Apple TV and I watch YouTube and Facebook and stuff. So no one, they're dying. And the key event to show you that they're dying is Hillary stumbling into the van. The media said that she had stumbled, just misstepped off the curb. And if we had depended on the mainstream media, that's all we would have heard. But 2 citizens were there, and right now there's 180 million of us walking around in this country with high-definition TV cameras in our hands. And the only reason we saw that event on 9/11 with Hillary was because 2 people just happened to be there with cell phones. So because there were people there with cell phones, we saw that she was wobbly, and she didn't stumble. She collapsed into the van. So citizen journalists are happening. And I'm kind of running this into the ground with what I've been seeing lately, but to make the point crystal clear, if there's some kind of event, a protest, or a riot, or something like that, the mainstream news media basically has to get a call saying there's a riot downtown, and then they have to get their news van together, and they put out, their reporter gets in the van, and the cameraman gets in the van, and they get the driver, and then the next thing you do, they go out and find the location. It takes them 25 minutes to get there, and by the time they get there, have to string up that enormous long pole to talk to their microwave station, and they have to get the guy with the lights out there, and the cameraman has to put the camera on his shoulder, and they have to get a light on the person there, and they have to get the microphone feed done, and they start the thing, and 3, 2, 1. Well, we're here at the scene of what happened an hour and a half ago, because it's over by the time they get there. But the difference today is it's over, but by the time the mainstream news media arrives, millions and millions and millions of people have seen the event because it was streamed live. It was either shot on the iPhone and uploaded, or now more and more often, just streamed live to the web. Millions of people have seen the news. So we are entering a world very rapidly of citizen journalists, which means that the signal will get out. Hillary Clinton still thinks that that she can keep secrets in this world. This post-election picture of her walking the dog, just happened to randomly bump into somebody. Doesn't seem like that was the case. Looks like it was a setup thing, and she just keeps lying, and it doesn't matter anymore. Now, a serious problem, as J.S. Brads one points out, is that YouTube and Facebook are banning conservatives and they're censoring content. That's fine. You can turn that around and make that part of the romance and the mystery of being on the Rebel Alliance. It's not a trivial problem by any means. There is a conservative Twitter. I was at an event in South Florida, and I met a guy who's running the conservative Twitter, and I'm going to join that, certainly. But the good news is that the signal's going to get out, and the especially good news is it's not going to be a conservative media or a liberal media. It's just going to be the truth. I still have major problems with Julian Assange, but as it turns out, Julian Assange was the only person out there, and anonymous, that were doing actual journalism. They were going out and digging up the truth and running with it, and not in the news suppression business. So, yeah, they're done. They know they're done. And when you hear the New York Times, by the way, say, hey, you know what, my bad, we maybe weren't as fair as we could have been, and we want you to trust us and teach us how to cover the news more fairly. In other words, you knew full well that you were not only slanting the news, you were suppressing the news, you were killing stories that were true, you were promoting stories that weren't true, and you did all this to drag this carcass over the line, and you didn't do it, and you failed, and now everybody's on to you. Now you say, hey, really sorry about that, trust us again and everything will be fine. Go to hell. Just stuff yourself, honestly. The New York Times is done. They're all done. They're finished. So just watch them burn, and they're burning down. And that's why they're so scared, by the way, Matt. That's why they're so terrified, because they know they're over. It's finished. One thing I didn't get to include on that miracle video, I wish I had later, is the very, very beginning of Lord of the Rings, because we saw the towers fall. I met James O'Keefe. I know James, and I spent a good couple days with him down in Florida, and he's on fire to go. And I want to spread that around wider, too, and get him some more resources. But in any event, the one thing I actually wish I had included on that night thing was the beginning where at the very beginning of Lord of the Rings, you hear Galadriel saying, there's a change. You can I forget what you can taste it in the water. You can smell it in the air. The world is changing. Sure enough is. Thank God, and it couldn't happen too soon. And by the way, none of us realize the magnitude of what's happened yet. I mean, if Trump had eked it out and we'd lost the House or the Senate or both, that'd still be a victory. But it's the House, and it's the Senate, and it's the courts, and it's the presidency, and the pop culture machine has been destroyed, and all of the celebrities have been discredited, and all of these so-called impartial journalists have been unmasked, and all of the liberal assumptions have been defeated. And because they're such children, more Trump voters are created every single day. Every time these people protest, every time a Trump supporter gets beaten up, every time you see somebody stealing a Trump sign, you're making more Trump fans. And he is, in fact, they're the reason he was elected, and good for him. And I like very much what he's been doing with his teams, his picks. We're talking about Giuliani and Newt Gingrich and Bolton. Sign me up. And Burning Chrome says it was nice to use the Das Boot clip. He said it a couple times. It is my favorite clip. I was cheering when I saw that in the movie. Not today, You may get us yet, but not today. Not today. So anyway, now last thing I'll say about this is I was on this subject. I felt ripped off by not seeing Hillary's concession speech that night. I really did. And I was, again, this is on camera. I was watching the feed while I was on camera live at Daily Wire, and when it was announced that she wasn't going to be coming out, I screamed at the TV set as loud as I could, "You coward! You miserable coward!" And then Podesta comes out, and when Podesta's speaking, I'm screaming, "You coward!" Because Podesta couldn't even come out and say, "Hey, we gave it our best shot, but we just didn't win this one. Thanks to everybody." No, she just plain chickened out and left those people literally, genuinely, literally out in the cold. And then Podesta comes out, and he can't have the grace or the courage to say we lost. So he has to do this, well, there's still some states that are too close to call, and we're fighting this thing, and everybody go home now, and we'll have more to say in the morning, as Clinton is giving the concessions phone call to Trump. It's miserable, low-life, chicken shit cowardice is what it was. And they should be ashamed of themselves. And Hillary supporters ought to wake up to the fact that she thinks so little of you that she left you out there while she either got roaring drunk or physically violent or was in a crying fit. One of these three, probably all three. And by the way, if you're a big fan of Hillary Clinton and her everything she's done for women's rights, you ought to be ashamed to the death of the fact that this person who claims to be a strong woman and as strong as any man, and let's break that glass ceiling, is the only person in memory who's run a presidential candidate and campaign and then could not come out and give a concession speech because she was too busy crying. Really? This is your champion? Honestly, if Condoleezza Rice had run for president and not won, I don't think she would be too busy crying. I think she'd come out and give a hell of a speech. You know, if Connie had been elected in 2008, we would have had the first black president, the first woman president, and the first serious president, and the first great president who was both of those things, because Condi is the bomb, and I think she's just terrific. Anyway, somebody's asking about mugs. We have some news about mugs, which we'll get to you next time, Scott. I think we have some mug progress, but it's just been crazy for me, so we'll get to that shortly. Okay, so moving on here.